Adjust your aircraft accordingly on finals. Call out for flaps full if that is your landing configuration, then proceed on with the landing checklist. Let us talk a bit about puppies. 2 reds and 2 whites, you are on profile. 3 reds and 1 white, you are low on profile. 4 reds and you are very low on profile. 3 whites and 1 red, you are high on profile. And finally 4 whites, you are very high on profile.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to my channel Captain SQ, where we're going to discuss on Airbus systems, emergency procedures, and supplementary techniques on how to fly the plane.
What's up everyone? Welcome to A320 Refresher Series Episode 9, Visual and Circling Approach. This is the 9th episode of this series to refresh your memory on the normal procedures we perform on a daily basis. Do enjoy this series. Disclaimer, always refer to your company manuals. This video is merely a guide. And before we start, do click on the like button, subscribe, and press the bell for more updates. Okay, let us dive in. Let us start with visual approach first. Okay, we are departing from an airport. Let us just fast forward this departure. Excellent, now we are at the beginning of the downwind. Activate the approach when approaching the downwind leg. Okay, autopilot off. FDs off, select the bird. Adjust your aircraft to be at 2.5 nautical miles away from the runway. You can see this on the ND range scale. Call flaps 1. Pilot monitoring says speed check and extend flaps 1. Once you are abeam the runway threshold, start the stopwatch. Look outside to confirm visually and then just glance at your ND position to confirm. Extend the downwind leg. Since we are flying at 1,500 feet AAL, fly for 45 seconds. The rule is 3 seconds for every 100 feet and plus minus 1 second per knot of head or tailwind. Before turning base, select flaps 2. Pilot flying call for flaps 2. Pilot monitoring, check the speed and select flaps 2. Pilot flying turns base visually and request the pilot monitoring to select the runway track. Start a shallow descent while turning base leg. You can lower the gears on the turn, arm the spoilers, and turn on the taxi and turn off lights. Select flaps 3 on base leg. Adjust your aircraft accordingly on finals. Call out for flaps full if that is your landing configuration, then proceed on with the landing checklist. Let us talk a bit about puppies. 2 reds and 2 whites, you are on profile. 3 reds and 1 white, you are low on profile. 4 reds and you are very low on profile. 3 whites and 1 red, you are high on profile. And finally 4 whites, you are very high on profile. To fly a 3-degree descent angle, place the top of the bird's tail on the white 0 pitch line. Be stabilized at V approach at 500 feet AAL. Use our eyeballs to fly the visual approach, but as a guidance, you may use the yo-yo or VDEF. The VDEF may be used to monitor the profile, but make sure that the flight plan is properly sequenced and you are on GPS primary. Okay, visual approach done and dusted. Now let us have a look at circling approach. When do you perform a circling approach? Well, when you cannot perform a straight-in approach. The circling area ensures obstacle clearance. So what are the dimensions? As our A320 is categorized as a Cat C aircraft, for Panox, the radius is 4.2 nautical miles, and for Terps, it is 2.7 to 3.3 nautical miles. This is the radius from the runway threshold. We must make sure that we are within the circling area and always maintain visual contact with the runway. For Category C aircraft, the maximum speed is 180 knots for the circling area. Therefore, if we maintain F speed, we should be safe within the circling area. Use autopilot, auto thrust, and track FPA. Enter approach procedure, including the miss approach procedure for the instrument approach. The initial circling approach will be in config 3, landing gear down and F speed. Enter circling minima as published on the chart, but do not add 50 feet. Insert the landing runway into the secondary flight plan. Okay, showtime. At circling MDA, push vert speed to level off. If no visual at MDA, go around. Select a track of 45 degrees away from the final approach course. When wings are level, start the time and aim for 30 seconds. At 30 seconds, select the downwind track. Maintain visual reference with the runway at all times. During the downwind leg, activate the secondary flight plan to display the landing runway. This will also enable ground speed mini function in final approach when managed speed is used. When abeam the runway threshold, start the stopwatch just like the visual approach, 3 seconds for every 100 feet and plus minus 1 second for every knot of tail or headwind. Autopilot off, FDs off at the latest before starting the descent towards the runway. Keep the auto thrust on. When reaching the calculated time, turn 25 degrees of bank immediately and start a slow descent. Select landing flaps full. Complete landing checklist. Cabin crew advice. Auto thrust speed. ECAM memo landing no blue. Adjust the rate of descent to maintain a 3 degrees glide path and be stabilized at 500 feet AAL. If visual reference are lost or a landing cannot be made, go around. Fly on the runway track until circling minima, then towards circling area. Remember to fly selected for the miss approach procedure of the initial instrument approach. I repeat, fly selected of the initial instrument approach. Have a look at the tree diagrams to get a clearer picture. Now, let us talk a little bit about go around. Go around if you lose visual at or below minima, unstable approach, or malfunction that causes unstabilized approach. Number 3, GPWS or wind shear alert. To go around, set toga thrust. This will engage the go around phase. If no autopilot, pitch to 15 degrees, 12.5 degrees if you are on one engine. SRS will maintain the current speed of V approach. If you have two engines, the SRS speed is limited to VLS plus 25 knots, and for single engine, it is VLS plus 15 knots. Nav will engage. If nav mode does not engage, go around track engages. Select nav or heading as required. Aircraft will climb to the FCU selected altitude or altitude constraint in the flight plan. So, what does the pilot monitoring do? When pilot flying calls for go around flaps, the pilot monitoring selects one stage of flap up. If you are overweight and not using flaps full for landing, what is the flap setting you need to set for go around? And if you know the answer, do comment below. Pilot monitoring says positive climb and pilot flying calls for gear up. FMGS enters go around phase. At acceleration altitude, select climb thrust. At F speed, select flaps 1 and above S speed, select flaps 0. Disarm the spoilers, lights off, and after takeoff climb checklist. The aircraft will maintain green dot. If you are attempting another approach, activate the approach, and if you want to divert, activate secondary flight plan or enable alternate. The aircraft will then accelerate to 250 knots, assuming that there are no other speed constraints. Now, if you are flying the bird and go around with FDs off, what do? Well, pitch to 15 degrees, nose up, or 12.5 degrees on one engine, then follow SRS orders. The FDs will re-engage automatically.